Yeah, that sounds fine to me, Connie. A man's voice preceded him through their small living room, escaping to the kitchen. He stepped through that threshold and passed behind a woman as she scraped chopped vegetables into a pot. Boiling water splashed as the assorted colors disappeared below bubbles. We're still trying to bulk up staff, but half the hiring committee's not going for it. I don't know if Henderson thinks we're due for an influx of career salesmen who want to work for peanuts, but He cut himself short as he watched her preparing dinner, then glanced at the clock on the wall just above their vacant dining table. I can see you're enchanted by my story.
Oh, come on. I think all salesmen think that way, don't they?
They were quiet for a moment while he studied its empty chairs. Nearby sizzling occupied the empty space as she moved to tend another dish. When do the boys get home?
They should be here any time now. Sometimes the bus runs late if the kids get rowdy.
He hesitated as though he were going to speak, but instead slipped a small black device out of his pocket and studied its screen intently. The word BlackBerry emblazoned upon its chassis stared back as he began to type on it, but a faint ringing suddenly jolted the pair. It echoed through their small house eerily, an intrusive fragment of a past only recently left behind for most. He glanced to Connie, who wore a look of confusion.
Is that old landline on the wall? I didn't know that thing was still plugged in. Has it ever rang before?
She asked, a deep sensation forming in her chest. He sighed and put away his cell. What's the point of having these fancy smartphones if people are still gonna call and the goddamn... He muttered as he headed toward that eerie ringing. It beckoned him, its siren song crashing against this dwelling's shallow surfaces. A curious red landline, fixed to the wall right outside their laundry room, signaled ferociously to be answered. His wife returned to cooking as he fast approached it, that unusual occupant still wailing for someone, anyone, to pick up. His hands wrapped around its plastic hide, and that ringing suddenly ceased as it left the wall. Hello? Hello? Quiet crackling came through the line, like a static television at the midnight hour. That noise raced to fill his abyssal mind. His head turned slightly, mouth gradually opening as that crackle surrounded him. He tilted slightly forward, the world beyond the confines of these walls and windows smearing into a haze for him. Somewhere in the back of that static, a faint, almost undetectable squeaking, as if an old bicycle's wheels had fallen into disrepair. A once alien word now flashed over and over in his head, delivered by that auditory messenger.
Who is it?
He shifted his head further to stare back toward that kitchen. That static was still audible, even in her voice. He dropped the phone. It struck the pale rose wall and left a deep indent, then settled into a dangling position against the surface while he passed by a couch. Light glinted off a dull metallic blade at his periphery. A pair of scissors left beside an open box. They scraped along the table as he shakily grabbed them. Before she could turn to face him, a blinding red overwhelmed his vision. Howling screams clattered from ear to ear, fracturing the self that had become momentarily suppressed. At the forefront of his mind was someone else now, but he could still feel the violent motions of his hand. Hushed gurgling reached toward him as he now stood at the window, watching his young sons bounding toward their front door. He could feel his hand clasping that utensil, feel the thrumming of that phone not far away. His faint reflection stared back in the smudged pane, pale, yet stained with drying crimson. Yellow irises focused back on that face. They disappeared from view, but he remained alone in the glass. And slowly, that ghastly visage departed the pane as he heard the door handle click open. Special thanks to this episode's voice actors, Rachel Ryan Lee as Connie. And of course, thanks for listening.